Just last Wednesday, we were talking about how the market does two steps forward and one back. Because late September, things have been bloody. Now we are seeing steps forward with Bitcoin, ETH, and BNB ripping upwards. Now, is this adding up to a blow off top this end of year? Or will this be a prolonged cycle that won't really top out sooner than December over a year from now? That is the real question. And today we'll look deeper at price action to see what it may be suggesting. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. Now, I'm Jay Rain, and I grew up poor in life. Actually, like my little inside joke is that we were too poor for Kool-Aid. When my mom went to the store once a month, the big cheaper store, she would buy Flavor Aid packs instead of Kool-Aid because we didn't have the money for it. So we'd get 2 packs of Flavor Aid per month to use. And I realized as a kid and growing up in life that money allowed us options. After I found crypto in 2017 and had been in it for a few months, I recognized that crypto as an investment had the most amazing, massive potential for the financial gains that can change someone's life completely. And I had been waiting for this chance my whole life. Now, after 8 years, I know that crypto can and will change your finance and your life, but only if you do it right. I learned that 89% of people in crypto don't make meaningful money or flat out lose money. And I didn't want to be part of that. Another 6% of people, they make money, but only a little. It's only the remaining 5% of crypto investors that make life-changing gains and take them into the lifestyle that we all dreamed about as kids. So I focused 100% of everything on figuring out what those 5% did and then putting it into practice myself. By 2021, using those principles, I was able to fire my day job, move to the city I wanted, and put myself in position to never have to work again if I didn't want to. And these principles will do the same. I started a YouTube channel because I realized that nobody was really talking about these principles. Now, this was the YouTube channel I wish I could have found from somebody else. YouTube doesn't really reward this type of content. Since I was doing the research anyway, I decided I would create this channel. And it attracts those that already think this way, those that realize they don't want to do what the 89% of people are doing, and they are willing to counter trade that because it's hard. That means buying when everyone says selling is the right option, and often means selling when everyone is saying buying is the right option. Now, joining us today, it's Wednesday. We have our special guest, Paul, joining us from DevvExchange. Now, Paul has 30 years price analysis experience. This kind of price analysis experience, you really don't find much in crypto. And most of the time, they work for big companies or organizations you do not have access to. So I know the audience that joins us already knows who Paul is, and you love him and are so happy that he joins us every Wednesday and has since 2021. So good to have you here, Paul. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure as always. Great to be here, especially on a new all-time high for Bitcoin.
Yes, this last week has been crazy. And just last Wednesday, we were coming off a bloody end of September. And I was reminding people that it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and that this step back was nothing to be worried about, that we were going to rip upwards soon.
Boy, yeah. The question we got asked was, do you think it's going to go down to 100,000 before it goes up? And the chart didn't look like that. And on this occasion, it was right. It did go up. That compression was, bullish. We broke into a new high. It's come off that high, and it's consolidating. But all the macro trends are still bullish. Everything that we normally look at the beginning of the show, I've got a screen that's a bit higher up, so that's why I keep looking up at it. But we will, go through those charts. And you mentioned the blow off top. I don't think we're there yet. There's different signs that we'd look for to indicate that we're at a blow off top. It would be unusual now if the other smaller cryptocurrencies didn't move higher, I'd expect them to at least begin to show some signs of life here. A bit of trickle down would not go unwarranted. And so let's see. We'll have to see over the next couple of weeks whether that happens or not. But certainly the big players, the ETHs, the Cardanos, the Solana, etc. Sui, you mentioned BNB. There are some bigger ones that seem to be the next ones that want to go. Maybe this is a wave that just goes all the way down to the smaller ones. We shall see. But the backdrop is very, very bullish. It's extremely bullish. So at some stage, I'd expect them to be pulled higher.
Yeah, absolutely. So many markets are going up. Like generally, it looks like many countries around the world are probably going to turn their money printers on. Would you agree with that sentiment? I've heard a number of people talking about it.
Well, I've been saying for a very long time that the most important economy is the US economy, and rates are going down. So that's kind of the equivalent of money printing or causing money printing. The rates have been going down, and pretty much every central bank, especially after the tariff situation. So it's interesting that when you get this, what would be described as an exogenous shock into the markets, the response is from central banks to try and protect their economies by lowering interest rates. The net effect of that, as Chris has asked many times about and is right to ask about, is what is the long-term inflationary implications? And the answer to that is not very good, because if you look at the way asset prices are rising and rising aggressively, it implies further down the curve that they're going to have to start tightening. And knowing the way central banks get everything wrong in terms of market timing, they're loosening at the wrong time now, and they'll be tightening at a time when they'll potentially leave things too late. And the good news with things like that is it makes a really interesting market. It makes opportunity. And I remember when I was working in the bank, and my he was then my then boss back in the 90s used to complain that the sort of sales force and certain people in the dealing room didn't really understand the markets. And my answer was, well, if they understood the markets better, they wouldn't need you or us. But I didn't say you, because that would have been a bit rude to my boss. But that's the whole point. Like, you can get frustrated with central banks, but I've learned to actually embrace the fact that what they're doing is causing the markets to create opportunity. And this is one of those opportunities. Like, a lot of people are talking about market crash and how the markets are too high and all that stuff. But it's because you can look at they're looking at data that is behind the curve, because inflation, let me get my hand in there. So inflation was high because asset prices were high, and then inflation's come down. And so those numbers make the inflation numbers look good. And so the job numbers have been weaker, and the tariff situation and all that sort of stuff that's caused problems has made the economy look weaker. But if you look at asset prices, they're rising very quickly, because the market knows that the Fed's response, the Chinese market's response, the UK, they've cut rates, in Europe, they've cut rates, in Canada, they've cut rates, in Australia, they've cut rates, and they're looking to cut rates again. So all these places, they are looking at economic inflation data and saying there is no problem. Meanwhile, in the UK, if you go to buy a pint of beer, it costs you £7, and a cup of coffee is about £5. So I don't know what it's like in Canada, but certainly in America, I'm guessing that you're hitting fairly similar numbers plus with the difference. Obviously, it depends where you are. In an airport, it's usually pretty crazy, but still, inflation is running higher than the official numbers. So all that shakes down to the market is, what do you want to do? You want to protect yourself against inflation? How do you do that? Well, there's gold. It's tearing into new all-time highs, just broken 4,000. Silver, precious metals, base metals, that's all demand driven. And then you've got equities, all-time highs, pretty much across the board. And then you've got cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin all-time high. Why? Because it's a hedge against money printing and inflation, which is all being caused by the same problem. But somewhere down the line, this is all going to unravel, as I keep saying, and we'll be on the show to tell you that the warning signs that the turbulence is hitting, and then that the market's ready to turn.
Yeah, it'll give us a lot of clues coming up. And what's interesting is we were talking this last week about the fear and greed index, and still relatively it's been low, especially a week ago it was low.
Yeah,
Big pump up. It's gotten a little bit to the greed side, but just a little bit.
Yes, it's at 55% neutral. It's at neutral levels. So it's with Bitcoin at a new all-time high. What does that tell you? It tells you that the market is not in this overbought situation where everybody in their dog spot, as they say, even the taxi drivers, as they say, are buying. What's funny also about gold, and Chris has put a really nice comment there about the 1,000 leverage long on gold or silver. Yeah, it is. There's still not many people are talking about gold and silver, and I can't believe it, because I've said to a few people, "Oh, have you seen gold?" They're like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." So it's amazing that it hasn't actually permeated into the front pages of what I would describe normal media. So, things around the world in the main headlines, news in all the different places, and then gold hits a new high. No, it's just there's no report. I mean, I suppose we could look at the BBC in the UK. I don't think they've said it, but it might be. Actually, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have said it. But yeah, again, I think people are short and scrambling to buy. That's what this shows, and it's still not giving a sell signal as far as I can see.
Yeah, well, we were talking Friday in our private chat. So those who join the Patreon get access to our private Discord. In our private Discord, we have our Friday private chats. We were talking about how Wall Street climbs a wall of worry, which is what that comes from you. Like, that's where I heard it. And or markets climb a wall of worry, and I think about that frequently, and we're seeing that play out. Like, this is what a bull market looks like. And we just had some big numbers put on the board, and yet 55%, they're just above neutral. And what it looks like late in the stage is that greed gets really, really high for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that obviously I learned, well, not obviously, I learned that phrase from someone else when I first started out in my career. And what you learn is that there are a few things that stay consistently correct over the long term, and after a while you end up learning all of them. Or I mean, all of them. We're always trying to learn more. There's always more to learn, of course, but what I found is what is correct is very counterintuitive, and there's some brilliant market phrases. Warren Buffett's phrases were fantastic. Charlie Munger, all the things that he says are very hard to enact, but they are truisms. And not that I look at I mean, you look at the market more like a Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger than I do, because they didn't like charts. He also didn't like gold either, or doesn't like gold, which is interesting. But that's because Warren Buffett lost money on a silver trade, I think, a while ago, and then said I don't really understand it. And then, but I bet he wishes he was in it now. So that's why I like technicals, because you can move to any market. And I'm kind of market agnostic in that sense. But yeah, but you just see the same thing. It's just you've got to know what you're looking at, markets and sentiment at the same time, and putting those two things together. And when you look at the headlines, it can tell you, like, for example, this is a classic. The UK banks, we've got a budget coming up, and we've got a Labour government, which is the equivalent of a Democrat in the US, and the Labour government are usually pretty bad for the markets. Like, people don't like Labour, or the markets don't like Labour, because they tend to tax more, they tend to not to be business friendly. But to be fair, these days everything's pretty much further in the middle or just slightly right at the center anyway. But in any case, there was this big rumor going around that they were going to tax the banks, or there was going to be a tax on the banks. And I looked at the share prices of the banks, and they didn't really come off that much. And now today, Lloyd's, for example, is just broken into a multi-year high, like quite aggressively. So, and the technicals was very clear that this market was going up. So what's interesting about that is if you listen to the news, it will shake you out of your position. You go, oh my God, they're going to tax the banks. I better sell my position. And then a couple of weeks later, it's at an all-time high. You're thinking, why did I do that? So I'm not saying fundamentals are wrong, because they aren't. And there are people who are smart enough to dig out the fundamentals of companies, like Warren Buffett, like you, like other people who find the opportunity and pay your money, take your choice. But the news flow, if you're looking at the cursory stories that are written day to day by the journalists, they are not giving you anything more than a quick overview of what they think they need to tell you. So if the market goes down 0.5% and there's some bad news, they'll say, oh, the market fell because of blah, blah, blah news. And if it goes up and they can't find a reason, they'll search around and look for something, because there's always something going on in the world that they can explain it with. So they're not, I think we may have said it a long time ago when we were talking about markets generally, but they are telling you effectively what the weather was like yesterday after the markets have moved. And that's not the game of trading and investing. We have to look, of course, into the future. Now, it doesn't mean everything I say technically is right, because that's not possible either. You just have probabilities, and that's the same for you. Not everything you pick is going to be a winner, but you know that as long as you manage your capital and you pick the right ones at the right times and know when to stay in, things can work out okay.
Journalists are often storytellers too, right? And sometimes they're telling the story, and the story is accurate reflection of what happened. Sometimes they're telling you a story. And most journalists are not experts in any field outside of, like, even if they're an expert in journalism. And so as they're writing on these other things, like, the truth is the greatest way to get wrecked in crypto is listen to the crypto news. Like, it is telling you what the weather was yesterday, and it will scare you out of whatever positions that are likely to pump soon, because like that is what a lot of people do, is they follow the news and they don't know how to dig deeper. They don't know how to climb the trees to find the good fruit themselves that the journalists aren't covering and don't know about. And so you're finding, like, the really undervalued gems before the quote unquote news are talking about it. And when the bigger news or bigger outlets are then covering it, that's sell time. That's not buy time. And I would imagine it's that way in most every market, though the only markets I've really covered in depth myself is real estate, somewhat stocks for a number of years, real estate for 2 decades, and then crypto, and for 8 years now. So, like, I know in crypto, when I was new, I kind of followed general, like, big crypto YouTube channels, and I would then get excited about what they were talking about. And that didn't go so well for me. As I was analyzing why, it's because you can't monetize while covering undervalued gems, because nobody's really searching for those projects as you're covering them. And so in order for me to do well, I was going to have to do a lot of the research myself. That doesn't mean I couldn't watch some YouTube channels, and I found some that I like better for just ideas on strong fundamental projects. But I realized they weren't likely to be covering them when the prices were really, really good. So as some of the channels were covering a lot of projects that I thought, fundamentally, I really like that project, but the timing is bad, just kind of put a flag by that project and be like, I like that project. Let me wait till nobody's talking about it and then look at where the price is. And maybe then it's a good deal, because right now it's not. It's getting way too much news coverage. And I don't chase green candles. And that is when things get news coverage. Like, what's funny is gold may even still be a value, and it'd be interesting to look at the price. But nobody's talking about it now, by the time the news is really covering it every day, you're late in the trade. Well, on that note, what markets are you watching and looking at, Paul? And what do you see going on in the general markets?
Okay, so we have we start off with the Dow, and as you can see, the trend is up. Weekly trend is up. Daily trend slightly off the highs, but nothing as yet to indicate a reversal. So we shall see. That was a little bit of a rejection as it hit 47,000. So hit that and it's come off, but that's just minor. So look, we saw that there, and it went straight up again. So for the moment, the trend is up. I think the Nasdaq as well, S&P as well. That that looks like it's about to squeeze. Russell 2000, again, that's the one that everybody hated, and it's breaking into a new high. VIX is going back down again. It's elevated, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see if there's something coming out. Even though the trends are still positive, I'm still going to keep an eye out for signs that things are turning, and things can turn very quickly. You know, it's not always guaranteed that it's a one-way street. It might be a high probability, but nothing is ever 100%. But with regard to the European markets, they're doing well. I'm not going to go through them. But actually, I'll just show you the DAX very quickly. That looks like it's going to break into a new high. The French stock market is working its way up as well, and the FTSE is already, pushed higher. The Chinese and Hong Kong markets, they're all in bull markets. So that's all looking good. Actually, the Japanese market, look at that. It's just heading up.
Yeah, one of my friends wanted us to look at the Japanese market as opposed to like US dollar. He's benefiting hugely from the conversion rate right now.
Yeah, I mean, dollar yen is actually, let's just go back. I mean, dollar yen is it's in a consolidation. So I don't know if he's actually making on the dollar falling yet. The dollar itself has actually been digging its heels in a bit. Let's have a look at dollar yen. See, dollar yen here is actually the dollar's going up and the yen's going down. So it's outperforming because it's moving up faster, to be fair. So I think that would work. But in terms of the currency, the actual currency, the yen is weakening against the US dollar a little bit. So
I think he's getting paid in US dollars and living in Japan.
Oh, okay.
That's going well.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So whilst we're on the dollar, it looks like it wants to go up a bit more. It's really holding on to gains and looking broadly like it's squeezing up. I don't know whether this is just a sign that it's gone too far, or whether we are approaching a stopping point in the gold and silver market and we just need a correction. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's still not enough to say a change in trend, but it would be nicer if this was going down. But it's not going to go down every day. It has to have consolidations, and this looks like one of them. And what I'd like to see is it to fail fairly soon and then start to come down and make a really nice technical pattern. But we shall see. I'll let it tell me what it wants to do. So this is the gold market, and I think it was Chris who asked a while back if it had made a spike high, and I said no, because it hasn't given the signal that is completely, how can I put it? When you get a spike, it's got to really show up on the chart. It can't just be a sharp move and then the market comes down. It's got to be really big, and usually that happens with panic, and we haven't quite had that panic phase, but it looks like we're going to get a panic phase fairly soon. I mean, there's reports that the market is short and there's delivery problems. I don't know anything about it, but like proper delivery problems, and that's why it just keeps squeezing up. So I don't know about any of that. I don't look at the fundamentals, but what I did say was gold is going up, silver is following it, and the signs have been there. I said palladium was going to go up, and nobody really looks at that either, but that was a big reversal there, and platinum
That
as
is a
well.
huge reversal. Those are huge gains on those.
Yeah, there's massive gains. Yeah, there's like 7% today,
Wow.
palladium. Yeah, so things are moving. I mean, compared to some of the when you start looking at altcoins and some of the moves you get, people will probably think this is nothing because they move like 20%, 30%, 50% in a day. But this is big. These are big moves for the markets. And so
For those markets, these are outsized moves. Like,
yeah,
wow.
and they've come from no volatility. See, this is a change in dynamics that is important. So I could talk about the change. This could have been an altcoin, and that's why I say I always like to look for signs that I can say it's going nowhere, but I've also got to have a strategy that says this might, if and when it starts to turn, I've got to be on it quickly. So that kind of explains why. But we've seen that in any case in some examples. But going to the Bitcoin chart, I'll just change to this weekly chart. The overarching trend is still upwards, so that always has my bias. And this was a compression that I think I haven't looked at anyone's analysis, but I'm pretty sure if you looked around, you'd find some technical analysts talking about a double top because the market made one top and then another top here. But this is where when you look at the top, it's knowing that this is too flat to indicate that the market's going to change trend, and also because the sentiment was wrong, and also the sort of questions you get as to whether there's this sort of fear, and we are still climbing this wall of worry. Now, we have broken into a new high, and what would normally happen is the market would extend from here very quickly. So we shall see. This little pullback is fine, but if it comes too far back into this trend, then it would start to look like a bit of a failed breakout. So we will see. But for the moment, the trend is still up, and it has been up for quite some time. And I don't see any reason at this point to change that view. When it comes to ETH, that is still building up towards a breakout of this prior high. So I'm still bullish on it. And I actually like the technical pattern. There was a small technical pattern here that I was expecting a breakout from, and that failed. But it's turned into a bigger technical pattern that still is playing at this high level, which normally implies that we're going to see an attempt to break out and a sharp move. So I would expect a sharp move. Well, if it's not going to happen this week, I don't know. It would be unusual. It's kind of due. So let's see if we get it this week. But that would be my take on the markets. The main asset markets are doing very well, and the macro scene is getting pretty hot. That's obviously being reflected in the price of Bitcoin. It's pressing ETH against a very important level, and we should expect some pickup in the altcoins as money starts to trickle down. With regard to the ETH Bitcoin trade, what I like about this is it's now making a more mirrored pattern. So we've got this area here that's kind of repeating here, and so if it does go a bit lower, then that could be the end of this correction before ETH starts to pick up, and that would possibly make sense on the way the chart looks. But again, let's wait and see. This is still an upward trend, so I'm still expecting some form of outperformance of ETH later on. But in the short term, certainly Bitcoin is ahead and is kind of short term favored. But I think a little bit more of a pullback, and then perhaps ETH will start to outperform. And what we saw before with ETH is it does nothing, and then all of a sudden it starts to really outperform. So my guess is that's possibly what will happen next.
Yeah, that would be my guess too. And usually the money does cascade. I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin continues to run higher, but that momentum will likely shift into ETH is my guess. Now, behind the scenes, one of my contacts was telling me that banks have been accumulating ETH like crazy.
Really?
Like ETH is a bet that they're making, and a lot of institutions are buying ETH like crazy. So a lot of that's been on the down low, and the news isn't reflecting that yet. When it does, I expect ETH's going to break much further to the upside. And we'll see a lot of that money then cascade into other alts. We saw some of that cascade this last week into BNB, which is another high market cap altcoin and competitor in some ways to ETH. And we'll take a look at that. We are live. Shout out to Chris here. Good morning, Rainmakers. Happy Wednesday. Chris, if you're watching this, or for those that are watching this later, if the timestamps are in the video already, that is thanks to Chris who timestamps for us. Thank you for doing that, Chris. Abe in the house. Paul and Jay, thank you, gents, for coming on. Both are members of our Rainmaker private Discord. To get access to the private Discord, you got to join the Patreon. That'll give you then access to the Discord, where there's a lot more in-depth chat there. Some special things that we do every Friday. I go live with just the audience, and you can ask me any question you want, discuss anything you want there. Plus, you get access to that. That is where I interact with the community directly, as well as we have some of the Rainmaker family or experienced investors as well. And that is a place for people to become really good investors over time in the crypto community. Sale joining us. Sale, good to have you here. All right. Let's take a look at BNB's token, which broke solidly upwards.
Yeah, I mean, it broke solidly upwards kind of in July, really. So this is a bit late in terms of jumping on it. But the signs that it was going to break out have been there for some time. And in a similar way that the ETH was knocking on a key resistance point, you can see how it 1, 2, and then 3 and 4, and then came back again and is now from here broken it, and it's extending that move. So I'd just say that this is part of a broader upward trend, and nothing on this chart has been bearish for a long time. And this area here, of course, it could have broken down from. It is possible, but apart from the short-term correction, it never broke its previous low, and it just stayed within this percentage area. And now, if you look at the rate of incline, it's starting to accelerate. So, is that over? I don't think so. I think there's more to come. That's the probability. So, for me, I'd say it is a buy. For me, it's a buy, but it has been a buy as well. Yeah, I guess it's not much more to say.
Yeah, this is a great example of breakout trading. Now, looking back, like BNB has an interesting history because they launched back when I was brand new in the crypto space. So I came in right around here. So BNB at the time was about $1.80. So it's about what, 600, 700x up from there. Now, BNB at the time was the token associated with a new exchange in the crypto space called Binance, and they weren't a major player yet. There were some big players that had been around for a few years that were dominating the space, and Binance was doing everything they could to get some traction. And it was led by this guy by the name of CZ, and they did do a good job getting some traction. They were listing a lot of coins that other places wouldn't list, as well as there were so many people coming into crypto that all these exchanges were making it very hard for new users to get on. They literally would put freezes for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, not allowing anyone to come on. And Binance, you could get on, create a profile, and be trading within a day or two. And so Binance picked up a lot of new people, and they started making some good money as an exchange. And they rolled a lot of that good money into finding further use cases for the BNB token. Later, launching the Binance Smart Chain. And so in this coming bull run, BNB token did tremendously. But if you look at something interesting, BNB did something fascinating during the bear market of 2018, 2019, and 2020. It was one of the only tokens, BNB and Chainlink, about the only ones that did really well during the bear market. And you see it started the bear market at about $6. Actually, it dipped back down here to $6 somewhere in here. There we go, about here. So this is in the bear market, and over the bear market went to $30 to $40, which was an incredible increase in price during that time. And then blew up top all the way to like 600 and something dollars, and then traded sideways, and now is running upwards, and it's got a market cap of almost $180 million. Wow. 180 billion. That's crazy. But remember, there's some in the crypto space that say altcoins are crap and they'll never become anything big, and anything but Bitcoin is crap. And they're misunderstanding the bigger thing. Like, crypto is here to stay. Bitcoin unlocked this technology of distributed ledger and cryptographical encryption combined. And out of that came this idea of launching a token to raise funds, as well as being able to give those tokens use cases. And so some of these cryptocurrencies over time are going to have tremendous value. Bitcoin's value is a store of value, kind of like a competitor to gold. But a lot of these have other use cases that are very strong, and their prices can do amazing things when you invest well. And that's what I get excited about, is that you can see the kind of money you could have made on not just Bitcoin, but on other altcoins. Now, am I loading up on BNB? No, a lot of the major gains have happened on BNB. BNB is a great one to look at and see, okay, how well it did, and then ask, why did it do so well? And then I'm looking for earlier stage tokens like BNB that might have a really good future, because that kind of upside is no longer possible. It's done since it launched, it's done over 1,000x from its original price at 10 cents. But a lot of those gains are, so essentially at 10 cents, that's a 10,000x. It doesn't have a 10,000x in front of it over the coming 8 years. So, but there are other tokens that do, and I'm looking for those. Right. So BNB is solidly in the blue chip territory. If I were just blue chip investing, BNB would have been a good one to buy right during this time when it was consolidating, and then breaking to the upside. Wouldn't have been bad to buy in this time, but the US government was absolutely trying to destroy Binance, and they were unsuccessful. So this was a particularly risky time. And once that got resolved, it broke to the upside, and then really broke to the upside here. So is it a buy? If I were buying blue chips, it's late in the game for this. It's still got, I think there's still gains ahead of it. It's just the opportunity cost, and that I would rather be in things where I've got bigger, better gains, even in the blue chip category. But I still think it does a lot better than this in this bull run. So for me, it's a wait, or I'd be taking profits and rolling it into something else. But that's not to say it's not going to do better ahead. I think it will. All right, let's take a look at Zcash, which has done tremendous. Amazing how times change and governments change and regulators change.
Yeah. So Zcash, I don't really know anything about this one other than the way the chart looks, and we've got data going back to 2022, which is fairly decent. But there's also not a whole lot when it comes to the kind of, no, it's not that the history. All we've got is this downward trend, which clearly ended in July, and it's now moving higher, or has been moving higher from this new trend, which has taken out $80, which a very key resistance point. That was support and resistance, and boom, it's gone all the way through it. So from this area here, it was showing an upward trend, a gradual upward trend. That would have been a bias. Then the dynamics changed, as I was saying about the other chart with palladium, and how you can see those dynamics changing. And that was these couple of candles here, or bars, I should say. And now we're at like $170. Are we going to jump in here? It does feel a bit like you're missing out, or you've missed out, and that's the end of the trend. But without knowing why this is an announcement or something's got to be some form of announcement, which I don't normally like jumping on board for, but the gains are actually sticking and it's staying near the top, which I think implies it's going to have another go. The only way I could trade this would be to buy it here and maybe put a stop somewhere like 115, but the real stop would be below $80, and that's quite a hit to take if you're wrong. So the risk reward means that I'd have to take a very small position on it because I'm kind of buying a bit late. But whether the trend is going to go up or not, it does seem more likely that the trend would go higher. So it would definitely be one that I'd want to be trading on the long side, as opposed to, ones that are making a new all-time low. I wouldn't be wanting to be buying. So for me, it's a cautious buy. If I can say that, it may be that we if we wait, we get a better opportunity. There's a pullback and then some profit taking from people who've got stale longs and just want to get out and grab their profit. If they push the market back down and the news flow is better or still good for it, and there's something really significant, that would keep the price above this $80. You wouldn't get a chance to rebuy it there in those circumstances. So I would say for me, it's a cautious buy, but one that I would feel a little bit like, I'd rather buy something that's closer to doing a breakout, that I could get better risk reward on.
Yeah, that's a little bit earlier on the run. That was a crazy break to the upside. And what's interesting is Zcash is in the privacy narrative. And this privacy narrative was absolutely punished, particularly by the US as well as Europe, because they need to know where all the money, the story is that they're so concerned about money laundering. And some of these politicians that say they're the most concerned about money laundering, like Joe Biden's administration, Barack Obama's administration, were so concerned about money laundering and funding terrorism. These are both the Biden administration, the Obama administration gave huge amounts of cash to Iran, which is notorious for funding terrorism. So some of the politicians most concerned about funding terrorism, flying cash to potential, who knows where that money ends up. Maybe it just goes to poor children. I hope it does. But, we don't know how that money was used. So under Biden administration, they really cracked down on any type of privacy coins. And so you see that this narrative was absolutely punished during Gary Gensler's reign of terror against crypto. And Zcash really didn't do that well, even in the early days when Gary Gensler was barely, coming in and taking power at the SEC. It did go all the way up to 320, but absolutely got punished here and didn't even go up to the prices that it hit in 2017. Well, yeah, under Donald Trump, which is a different approach on giving people back their power and not having the government try to control everything. In this, I think maybe we see a big privacy narrative again. We did in 2017. We didn't really in 2021. And especially later on, as Gary Gensler was going after everything privacy related and putting pressure on other countries to do the same. They even went after some of the developers for Tornado Cash and put some of the developers, the programmers, in prison for developing components that were then used by Tornado Cash, something the world had never seen before. So they were absolutely fearful that people could direct their money in ways the government couldn't see and punish that heavily. Zcash breaking to the upside. I wonder what things are happening behind the scenes that led to that, but you start to see it in the charts, and then the solid break to the upside. I think in this bull run, Zcash does even better. Am I buying this narrative? Well, it's already a $2.7 billion market cap. It's outside of what I'm buying. So I'm in smaller cap coins. This is in blue chip category. It was under $1 billion market cap earlier before the breakout, and especially when you go back here to when it was $19. But solid break to the upside. Yeah, I think it, well, maybe it settles a little bit, but I think in this bull run it goes a lot higher, maybe as high as $1,000 per token. All right, let's take a look at cake.
Yeah, cake. Not sure why I'm just curious as to why we're looking at this one at this point. Was it a viewer pick or was it one that you wanted?
Well, so what's interesting about cake is they're tied. They are a DEX token on BNB chain. So as BNB is breaking out, cake has also been breaking to the upside.
Yeah, it has been breaking up, but it hasn't broken up enough for me to think it would hit other people's radars. But this is actually the reason why I'm asking is because I really like the look of this chart, and I think this is a great time to be looking at it because it is it's got fantastic resistance at $5.27, and it's approaching those levels. It's got resistance here at 4.65, and the trend is up. So for me, it's a buy because I'm waiting for this momentum to take this resistance out. And sometimes I get that wrong, and it doesn't work. But this is the sort of setup I like with a stop below this trend line. I think there was one that I thought was a really strong buy a while back, and it didn't actually break and just went lower. Can't find it now, but I'll remember it for when I see it, and I'll show you it. But now it is possible that this will go up and then make a consolidation because it could be repeating what's happened here. But I do like the way it's broken out from this area, and this should be a floor. So the risk reward is much tighter than the other trades that we were looking at. And so for me, whilst it's above this line or just give it a better room, could even use this moving average as a stop, which is the 200 week moving average at 2.28. That will go up over time. I would say for me, this is a buy.
Yeah, it's looking like it wants to break to the upside, and that would make sense with BNB breaking upwards. Sometimes tokens in that ecosystem then go crazy, and Pancake, this is the DEX token essentially for Pancakes. Pancake Swap is the primary DEX used on it. This is where money will probably flow, and we're seeing some of that in the charts that it's broken to the upside a little bit. But the previous high during this bear market has been 420, 430. No, it's a little bit higher than that, 450. So we're right close to that zone. So it's a good time to be watching it for breakout traders. During the bear market, got as cheap as $1.14, which is pretty cheap. And a lot of things like people were saying in the comments, John was saying Binance handled the arrest of CZ extremely well. CZ played his cards perfectly. They totally killed Binance's stablecoin BUSD. MYX was part of it, right? But this was joint. The Biden administration and the European government worked very closely together on targeting what they saw as threats. So I think MYX was what was used for that, but also the Biden administration had a hand in crafting MYX. Can we look at MTL if we have time? We can. We'll also be taking a look at Abe's recommendation for us to look at COPI. Now, am I buying Pancake Swap? Again, high market cap? No. If I were breakout trading, this is exactly what I'd be watching. I probably would even be taking a buy in advance of the breakout. But but it's outside. Like I tend to buy and hold for the longer term. So a lot of stuff I hold for a year, 2 years, 3 years, which also means in many regulatory environments, that's a long-term capital gain instead of a short-term capital gain. So there's tax advantages to it. And that's not that's in a zone that if I were just swing trading it, I would probably be buying it. All right, let's take a look now at MYX, which we covered a few weeks, 2 weeks ago or something, was absolutely going crazy. And 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I mean, that's so frequently what happens.
Yeah. So again, I think I was pretty cautious because of the amount of data we've got here. I'm not really that comfortable with this particular chart. It's not a lot of data, don't know much about it, and it's gone very far very quickly. As far as the technical patterns go, the first one was this correction, and then it continued. And I think I remember saying that what it had done was fairly similar. So I made 2 attempts, 1, 2, pulled back, and then it went up again. But on this occasion, instead of continuing, it failed at that resistance and it's come off. So that's why stops are so important. That's why exit points are so important. And I guess also it's why some strategies are wait for the new high to break before you jump in. And it just depends on your own individual desire as to how to trade or how to invest. Now it's come off, I think it's a wait, because this was one of those ones where you're trying to run with this trend, and that trend could have easily continued higher. The probability was that it would go up because it was moving so fast, and the technical patterns at that point, or the price action was positive. But you have to respect the market. It's failed, and now it's going lower. It could well still continue to go up, but this is, again, when there's not much data to work with, it's really hard to make a call. And on top of that, when it is such a small project, actually I don't know if it's small, but when it's such an early stage project, it can be pushed around by just a few players. And again, the downside with that is you're not seeing what a broader market thinks. You're seeing what an individual or a few individuals think, and that's not where technical analysis is strong. I'm trying to read what the broader market is thinking, and individuals are much harder to predict in terms of what they do. So for me, I'm not really sure. It should go up because this is still an overall upward trend. The buy point for me, I wouldn't have mind buying it in this area because it's near the high and it's staying compressed, and it has an opportunity to break through, and we were relatively close to it, but now we're quite far away from it. I would want to see it react and then start to move up again. And in some ways, I prefer to buy it when it moves into a new all-time high. There are 2 places: a new all-time high, or if it retests 2.4, and that would be because that was the previous resistance. If it acts as support, then on a first test basis, that would be somewhere I would consider. But again, when you compare it to other charts look simpler and probably more compelling. But that's how I would see this. So I think that all shakes out at the moment to a wait, but let's look at it again. And just before we end on this one, or you give your view on this one, why is it this one, other than the fact that it went up a lot? Was there a very strong reason why we were looking at it in the first place?
Well, yeah. Yeah, it was a perpetual futures exchange. So MYX is a non-custodial derivatives exchange, and for something to come out of nowhere and blast over $1 billion market cap is quite significant. Also, CZ was backing this one, or seemed to be talking about it, and so based on his background in the crypto space, really put this in the highlight. But I always get cautious. Like one of my principles is I don't chase boats that I've missed, and I don't chase green candles. And so the good buy was down along here. As it breaks further to the upside, it increases your risks while decreasing your rewards. So when it was traveling up here and everyone was talking about it, I was like, no, I don't chase the boats that I've missed. And then sure enough, it comes back down like this. Like, I don't know whether this has further upside in a bull market. Potentially it does, but a lot of the gains have been had. Realize that even in the early days of this, it was trading at 8 cents and now it's 5.50. So it literally went 200x to about $20. And yes, it's pulled back 25 it's pulled back 75% of that $20, but it's still significantly up from where it was at. And so this is too risky for me. I like to get on where the opportunity hasn't hit yet. And a lot of these gains have been realized. Now maybe they're further upside, but this is not my type of buy. This is exactly the type of situation that I would, if I were in it, I'd be taking gains from and rolling into boats I haven't missed yet. So for me, this would be a sell. Like it would have been a sell actually up here. I rated a sell up here. So like I would have harvested tons of my gains already. Let's take a look at some of our viewer suggestions. The first one being Cornucopias.
Yeah. So Cornucopia is still in a consolidation kind of neutral zone at the moment. And the last time we looked at it, we were saying it needs to get back into this zone between these two lines here. And to be fair, it's fighting back. It slipped below, which was a bit dangerous, but now it's coming back again. In terms of the momentum and the market dynamics, it hasn't really changed enough for it to be sort of on the brink of a breakout to the upside. So it's still a bit of a wait here, but it's good that we look at it for reasons I keep saying about how these ranges can turn into very strong trends in a blink of an eye. I would be more excited if we were in this area here. So let's see if it can work its way up into this area here, because this is the line, the trigger line that I'm looking for the breakout for. So can we draw a trend line in? Pretty much we can. It's a little bit, it needs a bit more margin, I would say, but that's enough to point a kind of stake in the ground to say that's where support is. So we have got now a fairly decent upward trend line. If there was nothing else around, I could maybe buy a small amount with a stop below, but I think momentum would have to look a little bit better. And therefore, for me, it's going to be a wait at this point, but it's becoming more interesting for sure.
Yeah, for me, this is my cup of tea. Nice and cheap during the bear market. So prices come down. Come down during the bear market. Now, the history on this chart is ever since it's been on MYX. So there's some price history this chart misses. But also this trading volume jump is interesting. That might just be swing trading or wash trading by the exchange itself. I wonder if that accurately reflects the trading. And if so, why it fell off so abruptly, even amidst this pump, and then came back. But it's still an amazing price point at right around 1.5 cents. It's not at its lows of 1 cent. What I also like about it is this $15 million market cap. So they did their big land grab. They have a lot of their world built out, a lot of their stuff built out. I think this idea of blockchain gaming, which really is just video games with ownership incorporated in it, that you can own the land that you're building stuff on. like in games, sometimes you own land, like, oh yeah, this is my house, but you don't really own it because you don't have the ability to sell it. And if you don't have the ability to sell it, mechanisms are different. Whereas when you get to capture the value, if the game does well, because then land values will go up. Sometimes items that are you can no longer get that are exclusive go up in value. You're able to participate in the increase of a video game that does well. And I think that idea is going to be revolutionary. That players of the game get to benefit when the game does well, like monetarily benefit when a game that they play a lot of and they've accumulated some assets in, whether they've accumulated through playing the game and using what they get to buy assets or by investing in assets in the game. I think that's going to change video gaming for forever. That in the future, like 5 or 6 years from now, there will barely be a video game in the top 10 that hasn't incorporated ownership into their game. But yet that idea is still somewhat new. We saw in 2021 that Axie Infinity did some tremendous numbers as people started focusing on crypto. I think as people start focusing on crypto again, some of these games that have built during the bear market, built in anticipation of money coming back into crypto, I think the gamers really get behind this idea of ownership in this coming bull run. And I think Cornucopias does really, really well in that. So I like this one a lot. I hold Cornucopias, I hold land. I'm invested in this one myself. And even though it's not at the lows, I really still like it for a buy. $15 million market cap. I think something like this can go to a $1.5 billion market cap, and that's about 100x from here. All right, let's take a look at MTL.
Yeah, I just wanted to check what MTL is because I can find a company called Metals Exploration, but is it
it's Metal DAO, I think is what he's talking about.
It's what, sorry?
Metal DAO, maybe?
Metal DAO. Let's see if I can find it with that. Metal DAO. Metals Exploration is actually quite interesting. So found something I might want to look at. But
got it on Coin Market Cap.
Okay.
John Steve says, starting to smell popcorn, because that's the analogy that I make is things start popping off is like when you put a bag of microwave popcorn in the microwave, and for forever it seems like nothing is happening, and then some things start to pop off, and then more things pop off, and then the whole bag is exploding. That's what I think. Yeah, I'm starting to smell it too.
Yeah, so Metal DAO. There we go.
You might have to look on CoinGecko. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I found it. That's yeah. So we've got two prices, two charts here. I prefer the daily bar chart, or this is a weekly actually. So it's been around a long time. So we got some decent history, but what we have also got is, see these downward trend lines that I'm drawing in here? They seem to be containing the rallies. Now, this is close. So what we've got is the market's being cornered into an area where it is likely to make a big move. Now, the pressure is on the downside, and we've hit 1, 2, and now we're coming for 3. This was big support here as well. So 60 cents, I think if this breaks, you're going to see some form of capitulation. But that's a time scale where if it doesn't break in the next week or so, then the risk starts to move back up. So whilst it's here, I don't know, it's a tricky call. I would personally wait until it's a bit clearer. So that has to be, for me, what I would do at this point. Now, you might say, well, couldn't you buy against this because it's been good support? It was a good breakout point here. I mean, it's such a significant level at this 60 cents. And absolutely, that is a strategy that some people, look at with charting. They could buy it and put a stop just below here. that's something to consider. It's just not the sort of thing that I do. So for me, it would be a wait. But if I was looking for a point to buy, it would be a very, very small position here. I'd prefer it to break this trend line, for it to break over this 94 cents, which is, I know percentage moves, it's just a massive percentage move in terms of where it is now, to wait for it to do this. But the reason for that is that the chart would look so much better. And if it's breaking these resistance points, then my expectation is it's on its way to something more significant. And that's why I'd want to do it. But whilst it's here, unless there's some announcement or some other thing that's coming up, for the moment, it's going to have to be a wait. I think it's actually not even the right market. Just looking at looking what Sailing's saying.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Metallicus. Sounds like a band, doesn't it?
Metallicus. Ooh, I did find something on CoinMarketCap with that, but like the digital banking network,
is that what that is?
I don't know. Like, where are you getting the chart on this sale?
Or Metal DAO. He's saying all Metal DAO. So we've done that basically. I don't know if there's some form of delay.
Yeah, Metal DAO is what we were looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, so Metal DAO, I think is what he was looking at, because it looks like they're involved with compliance with industry regulations like the Bank Secrecy Act that ensures it remains a secure and reliable platform for users. Sales background was in payments for, at a high level, at the high corporate level for a long time. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one that he's following. Look, when I was new in crypto in 2017, I didn't know what I was buying. I held metal way back in the day. I didn't really know what it was. I was just following YouTubers and trying to figure out the crypto space, almost like drinking from a fire hose, is what it felt like. And I haven't really held it for it. I don't really know much about it. Based on the chart, like I would have to know fundamentals, because I like where the zone is at. It could break to the downside. It's at a pivotal point, just like Paul was showing. And I would have to have significant reasons to think fundamentally that it would break to the upside, and understand why there would be a long term for this. It's at a low enough market cap that it would be interesting at 55 million. If there's a good compelling reason of why it might be able to go to, say, a $2.5 to $5 billion market cap. But I don't know fundamentally behind it what makes it interesting enough to possibly do that. All right, we got time for one more, and then I have to go.
Okay.
Oh, wait. No, there was one above. What was it? Something else for the lulls. Turbo. John Steves asked to look at Turbo, which is a meme coin. My favorite. Love the meme.
Okay. Is this it? Turbo? I can say very quickly that this is neutral. Actually, a very similar chart to COPI in some ways. It's in a range and a wait for me. I would need this to break, at the very least, this trend line here. As a meme coin, what's it been doing? Yeah, not a lot. Well, I'm just looking at when it was launched, if there's anything interesting about it. It's got a decent upward trend from this low, which is good. It's actually right on the trend line here, so maybe it's ready to move up. But this whole area here is just a consolidation, and it's halfway between this high and this low, which is a very important area. So I want to see it moving upwards for me to kind of catch that wave as opposed to just sitting where it is now, or maybe watching it drift lower. So it's a wait for the moment, but we can come back to it.
Yeah, this definitely isn't the kind of fundamentals that I'm looking for. I have a friend that invested in this one because he does invest in meme coins, which is all about narratives. What's interesting is the founder of this. This is kind of a good example of network effects of involving your audience in the story along the way. So he videoed himself using ChatGPT-4 to tell him how to make a meme coin, and then just went through and did the steps. And he involved the community in the story of it, which then created enough story that, you know, it got people behind it and involving themselves in buying the meme coin and in the community. Now, long term, I don't know, like meme coins, the narrative is this is the first meme coin created with AI for quote unquote the community. Cool. Like, why does that matter long term? That's just not the type of investment I do. But sometimes when you're trading memes, you're really just trading on hoping that the narrative pumps, because there's not substance to go after. You're just hoping the community gets bigger rather than smaller. And if it does, then the token will probably do well. But not my type of investment. I don't see anything on the charts that says this is going to turn around. It's just kind of mid. So especially being a $250 million market cap, not going to be my cup of tea. All right. That's all we have time for today, gentlemen. Paul,
okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Thank you. And thank you. And thanks for the picks. And see you next week.
All right. We'll see you then. Now, we all got into crypto for life-changing gains. I recently released a video this last week that you can find on the YouTube channel specifically about that. Like, there are such good gains to be had here doing the right things. Like, after 4 years, I was able to quit my day job, never have to work again if I didn't want to. Not necessarily spending super lavishly. I did well enough that I really had financial freedom and could tell my boss, thank you, but no thanks. I'm not coming in anymore after my notice period. And that's great. Now, reinvesting that for a second market cycle can put you into total crazy gains. And yeah, I practice what I preach. I redeployed my capital during this last bear market, and we'll see how it goes. I think that this bull market is going to be incredible. If you want deeper conversations, join the Patreon. That's going to give you access to our private Discord. It's where you have greater access to myself, greater access to the community of like-minded investors who join me on this journey. Realize that, like, I'm not special because like I'm magic at this. I'm special because I became passionate about learning what those that were being successful were doing and just copying the hell out of it. And it's funny how that works so well in any industry. If you commit to learning what the successful people are doing, then you copy their strategies, you then start having the results that they have. And when I really figured out that 95% of people in crypto didn't have the kind of results that I was here for, only 5% did, my question was, what are those 5%ers doing? Well, join us in the private Discord. There's a community of like-minded people that are doing what the 5%ers are doing. And it's the best way to push away the outside influences. So your core group of people becomes the people that are part of this 5% that, yeah, are doing the things that the 95%ers aren't doing. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. This wrap is for all of you. We'll see you all soon.
Came to the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit bad before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss, cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. Principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road could soon become a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the games. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crafting. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I'll follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.